Talking and walking up this hill's hard. A different video. This is me on a walk with Tilly and Isla. This way, girly girls. I think it's the 8th of March and my daughter's birthday, 25 today. And this walk is called Little Mill, and as you can see, a fair bit of snow around. We're in the middle of this really cold week, and I'm supposed to be riding down to Edinburgh on Friday, which is about a 160-mile ride, to have a safety recall work done. It was about a 15-minute job because it's software. At the same time, meeting my daughter who's in Edinburgh with her partner, and we're going to have lunch. But it's forecast to be about -2, which then, with wind chills, and even colder, so I might just go down the train and replan the trip to get the software update done. One thing I want to do on the Goldwing is put a main stand on it, because for some reason on the bagger Honda don't put a main stand, which for a bike costing 25 grand I think it's a bit of a cheek, but there we go. So the dealership, which is Two Wheels Edinburgh, they didn't have the workshop time to fit a main stand, so I might just rebook that, go down the train when it's slightly warmer. The other trip I'm planning this year is to go to Outer Hebrides, the Isle of Lewis and Harris. I was watching the video by Richie Vida, which was nuts, doing it in the snow. So planning to do that as well, possibly sometime in April. We'll have to see. And we're going to do that. My wife will drive and I'll ride, and we'll bring the doggies with us. Hello girls, where's Tilts? Come on Tilt, come on, good girl. So that'll be like my adventure, and then my usual riding around. The other reason why I'm doing this film today is I have the Insta RS, which has a 360 lens, which I've not really used, and I prefer the Insta camera to the GoPro, mainly because the battery life is so much better. You don't get any of these odd problems you get with GoPros, suddenly freezing, and I've lost so much footage on GoPros. Been merrily barreling along thinking I'm filming some really lovely things, to find out that it froze and I have audio and no video. Never had that on an Insta, or I have done, because I was filming on Saturday. I took my bike up to good ride out and posted a couple of short videos, but I managed to corrupt the file with all the video on it, and so I'm taking my time and learning how to use the Insta Studio properly, and then also how then to take that and put it into some editing software and cut it. So I need a video I can get some good footage where I can edit, cut and then upload. So this is it, and I've been planning an update for a while, and I have a couple of days off work for various things, but this is ideal. So this is Little Mill, famous for some geological features like that lake down there, which is completely frozen. It's about -2. Little Mill is about 7 or 8 miles south of Inverness, on the road to Fort Augustus, B road, good road. It's a walk where I always like, if I've got some time, I like to come here. It's normally fairly quiet, not what I call a tourist walk. Not big enough and dramatic enough, but still beautiful. And I have to take my girls out. Let me introduce my girls. Tilly! Tilly, come here. This is Tilly Fruits. Tilly's a cockapoo, and that's Isla, and Isla is a collie called a red merle collie. So Tilly, when we got her, well, let's go back. We had a cockapoo called Bella, which I got in November 2018. Lovely dog. Well, cockapoos, crazy. Everyone who has a cockapoo knows about the zoomies. High energy dogs. And at the time we got her, I was still travelling a lot, and my wife was struggling a bit to cope with how demanding Bella was, and so we decided to get a second dog, and we got Tilly. And Tilly was advertised as a cockapoo, but very quickly we realised she wasn't. And we got her from just a family who'd tried a bit of breeding, and through talking to the vet, we think there's Cocker Spaniel, Poodle and Bichon Frise, hence Cockapoo. And all these things, cockapoos and labradoodles, they're just posh mutts. And one of the reasons we got cockapoos was because they're not pedigrees, and so less prone to sort of breed problems, although all dogs can come with problems, as we were to find out. So we got Till, and what a difference that made in calming Bella down. She had someone else to play with, and they became inseparable. We moved up here September 2020, decided to make that permanent in 2021, bought our house in Inverness in August 21, thought we were well set, and then this time last year Bella was having some breathing problems, which resulted in some very expensive veterinary work, including lots of MRIs and a major operation to try and fix her lungs. And it was an operation that should have had a great success. It had a success rate, and despite the very, very high cost, it was worth it for Bella. It was my girl, and we thought if this makes her better, and it's worth every penny that we spend, which was about £15,000. And when I tell people that, I get one of two reactions, or one of three reactions. Bafflement by people who don't have dogs. I don't really count them. From dog owners, I would never spend that on a dog, which my response is always the same. That means you're a dog owner and not a dog lover. And then from the dog lovers, understanding, sympathy, this is what we wanted, really, but it didn't work. And although we followed the instructions from the vet as closely as we could, now this could be a bit precarious. She was still having breathing problems, and this issue that she had, which is called bullies, which are growths on the lungs, they grew back. So the surgery had removed all these growths, but they came back with a vengeance. And the end result was, despite some more, we took her back to the vet hospital, and that's when we first started to talk about that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't going to get better. And so it turned out. So in May, after a very difficult weekend, we had to have her put to sleep. And she was only 3.5. And Bella was, she was a heart, everybody fell in love with Bella. And my favourites, I've got lots of favourite stories about Bella, but this is the one I like to tell, which was when she had the surgery. It was all very successful, or we thought so at the time. And I went to see the vet, or I went to pick her up. And I asked the vet what her sleeping arrangements had been. Had she been sleeping in a kennel or a cage or whatever? Well, the vet sort of looked down, looked a bit sheepish, and she said, well, Bella's a bit different from other dogs. Oh, I said, wondering what was going to happen next. Yes, she slept at the nurses' station. All the nurses, well, they created an area for her where she could play and be close by. And that just summed up Bella. Everyone fell in love with her. And because she was in a treatment plan, I had to phone the vet hospital and tell them the bad news. And the first call was as I'd expect. I mean, they're treating lots of animals. I spoke to the receptionist and briefly explained and said Bella, and that we'd have to put her down, and could she tell the vet? Thanks for letting us know. End of call. Of course, we were totally grief-stricken. So just a quick stop for this little break here. You can go left or right here, right through the forest, or left around the edge. So we're going to go left today. When we first came to do this walk, this part was shut off because they were doing forestry. And you're going to see in a second the impact of that forestry. Forest is very important to the Highlands. Forest management. And this is the area they cleared. You can see here. So this at one point would have been a walking through woods, but it's not at the moment. We'll get back to the woods, but just for now. And because it's so cold, I've got my thick jumper on and my winter coat back out. I'm actually quite warm. So back to my story. Phoned the vets and got the thank you for letting us know. Anyway, about 2 hours later, the vet herself phoned me in tears, and she said, "I'm sorry, I should have called you straight away, but none of us here have been able to speak for the last 2 hours." Which is a problem when you're trying to deal with people. And a few days later I had to go down there to return the drugs that we got. They can't reuse them, but there's lots of charities they can put these drugs out to. And we wanted what we had to go to people who maybe couldn't afford what we could afford. So it devastated everybody losing Bella. She was just a very special dog. And I've lost animals before, lost people before. This was different. And I think about her every single day. I thought after a few weeks, because she was just a dog, that it would pass, that it would stop hurting. Oh, Isla, how'd you get there? This is a problem of having a collie. Collies have a habit of finding escape routes. Come down here, we've got to try and find a way back in for her. How did you get there? Isla? Oh dear. Isla, how did you get there? Come down this way, sweet pie. Must be down this break. Now, she's always good at finding how to get out. Not very good at finding how to get back in again. But it must be this broken fence here. Isla! Oh, you're here. Well, I lied, didn't I? Here she is. Come here, sweet pie. Please don't do that again. You're a good girl. There we are. There we go. The joy of dogs. I'll come to Isla. So I thought that it would pass. It hasn't. I don't cry anymore. My wife still does occasionally. And we talk about Bella a lot. Both the good and the bad, because she was, lovely as she was sometimes a pain. As all dogs can be. But you love them anyway. But Tilly, to go back to the start of this story, well, she'd never been a lone dog. She'd always been the second dog. Always been one of a pair. And of course she'd lived through the separation of Bella going away. She's right behind me. And it caused her some distress. Of course, she'd lost her companion. Plenty of people will say it, and some have said it to me, that dogs don't suffer grief. Well, I can only report on what we saw. And it's what I would call grief. Tilly was with us when we put Bella to sleep. She was in the room. We asked the vet said it was a good idea. We took the advice. Did it help? I don't know. No idea. She then had to cope with our grief. And she was great, as dogs tend to be in knowing your pain. We then had to get used to not being with Bella. Had to manage the grief and make it so it will always be part of us. And you do reach the stage where, of course, life goes on anyway, but you begin to cope a lot better. So we lost Bella in May. Till was doing okay. She was lonely. We tried to play with her more. We did more walks. She's always liked a good walk, even though she only got little legs. And then my son came to see us, and he has a dog, Tibetan Terrier, and when he came, from the moment he arrived, Tilly was a different dog. It's like she got a new injection of life and enthusiasm. And we kind of knew then that neither of us really wanted another dog. But it was going to be, for Tilly, who was our main concern, for her welfare, we were probably going to have to get another dog, not a job. How you doing down there, sweet pie? Huh? Having a good explore. Well, life as ever is busy, lots going on, and we didn't talk about it direct. I just think we both accepted it. And we got to the end of October, we'd started to talk about it, and then we just decided one day, well, let's just see what is available. At that point, we didn't want another cockapoo. And we just saw a picture of Isla on Gumtree. And the Pets for Home site doesn't really work for this far north in Scotland. Not sure how well it works in Scotland full stop, but Gumtree is a place for all sorts. eBay doesn't work very well up here. Oh, God, I'm hot now, even though it's still about -2. Anyway, so Isla was owned by a shepherdess, the other side of Nairn, and she was living in a council house, but was going to be moving to a new farm where there was a limit on how many dogs she could have, and she had 3, 2 sheepdogs and Isla, also a sheepdog. She's a collie, but she'd got Isla to be a working sheepdog. But she said that she wasn't sure that Isla was going to make a good sheepdog, and I did wonder, how do you know after such a short time? She's only 3 months old. But you have to trust these people, they know what they're talking about. Unless she had to lose one dog. She did say that although she wasn't sure, maybe she could work with her, she could become an okay sheepdog. Oh, there's the Jets, the RAF going for lunch. Not too shabby, is it, just for walking my dog from home. And she was very honest, she needed money, and she couldn't afford to keep a dog she wasn't sure was going to make it, and she thought it was better to rehome her at 3 months rather than wait to find out she wasn't really going to work out for her. And she is a cross between a red collie, I never knew you could get red collies, and a grey merle collie. I never knew you could get grey merle collies, I just thought they were collies. And she is this red merle collie, my Eily Miley. And anyone who's had a puppy knows it's tough. Collies are tougher. very clever. And having Isla has been a real learning experience. She is gorgeous. She's a lovely dog. They're both very cuddly. Both like hugs and licks and cuddles and humans. Tilly says hello to everybody. She loves people. I think Isla tolerates people, but she loves other dogs. A bit mad. So you have to be very strict with a collie, and that's one thing I've learnt in bringing her up, is the training has to be strict. So now, recall's excellent. Isla, come on, sweet pie. Good girl. Now, nicely. Good girl. Probably should have kept that. Tilly, do you want something here? Tilly's only got one brain cell, and that's dedicated to sniffing, looking at auras, cuddling her mummy, and sleeping and eating. Being a professional dog, no. She's more of a cuddly toy with teeth. Tilly was very willful when we got her, and actually losing Bella seemed to change her character quite a lot. And she is obedient. She does come, has her treats. She can sit, and the lead walking's not bad now. And the state of a dog's training is always down to the owners. There's no such thing as a bad dog, at least not in my opinion. So any things to do with Tilly not doing stuff is down to us. But she's only little. Isla is a different thing altogether. And so we're having to train her much harder and for much longer, and have set routines, and they work. So one problem we had is we opened our gate to go to the car, she'd race off. So we start putting her on the lead just to walk to the car. We did that for about 6 weeks, but she learnt not to run off. Now she just runs straight to the car, hops in, as long as Tilly's coming. As I found out yesterday, I walked out with Isla. Tilly didn't follow. Isla would not get in the car. So she went back to the kitchen, found her Tilly. They both came out together. Tilly hopped in the car, Isla hopped in the car. So the risk of getting another dog, even for the best of reasons, which is Tilly needed a friend, they might not get on. And of course puppies, much they irritate humans, my God, they irritate adult dogs. So we've had some ups and downs. We've all stuck with it. And we have days where it seems to be, yesterday was one of these days. But by and large, she's a joy. The only problem we have is my wife is allergic to her, and badly allergic. So at the moment we're sleeping in separate rooms because it's the only way that she can get any sleep. And we have been to the doctor, and she's got some treatment and antihistamines now on prescription. We have to go through a brushing and cleaning regime just to make sure we can live day to day. And if we can't solve this, then we'll have to rehome her, which we absolutely don't want to do. But my wife's health has to come first. So we're determined for that not to happen. But as we learnt with Bella, we were determined with her as well. And we didn't get the outcome we wanted. Coming back into the trees now. Now life isn't always what you want. And dearly hope that's not the case. because I love her so much. She's my Oily Miley. And to all the dog owners out there, how many names do your dogs have? Isla's a funny name. It didn't lend itself to lots of different names, but they're growing now. So Tilly is Tilly Toots, Tilly Toot Bag, the Tilster, Tilly Fruits, the Fruit Bag, and Till. You've got about 20 different names. Isla's become Oily Miley, Isla the Smiler, Isles. And we have dogs for different reasons. I have dogs just because I love dogs. I didn't get my first dog, it's about 42. We got a Tibetan Terrier called Rocky. And we had him for 17 years. So my kids, I actually got him because my kids were scared of everything. We wanted a pet. We were going to get a cat. We've moved out of London by now. We're living in Tring in Hertfordshire. And that's a great area, lots of walks. And my son was very allergic to cats, so my brother's then fiance, now wife, had a Tibetan Terrier. And when the Tibetan Terrier came, or we always think when the Tibetan Terrier came, it was wrong. When my brother and his then girlfriend, fiance, whatever, came to see us, we could all get to know each other a bit. My daughter, my middle daughter, absolutely fell in love with this dog, Millie. And my kids were always good kids. They never asked for too much. If they wanted something, they would save up. But if they did ask for something, you really knew that was a big thing. So we went to get a Tibetan Terrier, and I registered with the Tibetan Owners Club or something. And after a few weeks, got a phone call to say there was a litter of pups in Daventry. So me and my then wife, mother of my children, talked about it and thought, okay, let's do it. And we got Rocky. Now, as we were leaving, the breeder told us to watch Crufts that year because Rocky's dad was going to be in. And that year, I think 2004, he won Best of Breed for utility dogs. The following year he won nothing. And I think the year after that, 2006, it could have been the year after that, 2007, he won. He was show champion at Crufts. A dog called Iraqi Willie. And Rocky was his son. From his first litter. And we used to get asked anyway about showing him. Well, first thing, we had him neutered, so that was not going to happen. But I didn't buy a show dog. I didn't buy a pedigree. I bought a family pet, kind of where Isla is. It was a dog for my kids to grow up with and learn about having a pet. In fact, I'm not a great fan of the term pet. They're family members. Isla Smiley, where are you? Isla, good girl. So you're not too far ahead. Right, Tilly Fruits, Isla, sit, good girl. Good girl. So, we were never ever going to show Rocky. And he wasn't his dad. He was never going to be a best in class of anything, apart from maybe be a dope. But he was lovely, bit grumpy, and it was the best thing for my three kids. They grew up with a Rocky. They had so many adventures with him. All our holidays ended up, after putting him into kennels and that not really working out, family conversation, an agreement that all holidays would include Rocky, which is what we did thereafter. We never went anywhere without taking Rocky. And in many ways, he was my fourth child. And I learned a lot about having a dog in the family, how to treat them, got lots of things wrong, loads and loads of things. You know, we did dog training, and of course dog training isn't dog training, it's owner training. But I did learn then about the unconditional love a dog gives you. I like to think we give our dogs lots of love. Some would say too much love, but Isla! 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 Come on! Well, you're back, aren't you? Are you here? Sit. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. You know where you're going, don't you? She tends to know the route. She's a clever dog. So this is the hardship of living in the Highlands, suffering walks like this. Now we're going down here, tilts. We're going down here. You can carry on down there. I just don't like it very much. It means walking down quite a long track, whereas this keeps us in the woods. Not met anybody today either, so probably because it's Wednesday. Tourists are beginning to come back, seeing more camper vans. We were down Rosmarkie yesterday at the beach. So there she goes, gone a bit of a range. So she's learnt not to run off too far, so she still gets lots of running. And sometimes she can run quite a long way, but as long as I can see her. And it isn't that I don't want her running far, it's if she gets in trouble, I can't help her. If she gets caught on something. And in fact, one reason we've stopped putting coats on her, collies do not like clothes. But as a puppy, because it's been very cold this winter, they don't regulate the heat so well, so she's had an equifleece. But she's coming up for 8 months now, so we don't try and put clothes on her. Although my wife put a sort of loose top on her a couple of days ago, and she came back. She'd gone for a while and it was ripped, so we think she got caught. Tilly, because she's a bit more round, all her clothes fit her snug, but so we're always a bit concerned if she goes too far and as it gets in trouble, we can't help her. So I like her to be with where I can see her. And the chances of that maybe are very low, but having lost Bella, maybe we're a bit more paranoid now. There's something spooked you, my sweet. Huh? Is something spooked you? It's okay. It's all right. You're right. It's okay. We'll just see. Probably a deer. And something's got her. I wonder what this is. Got them both. We all right, girls? That's a bird. He's a bird. One thing with dogs, I'm safe from birds. Not that ever in my life have I ever been attacked by a bird. I hit a pigeon once on a motorbike. But I've never been attacked by a bird. But Isla and Tilly, they protect me from all birds, especially seagulls and crows. And the crows and the seagulls, they like to play games. So they see Isla barreling towards her at 100 miles an hour, and then they take off. And they go to the next rock, and Isla chases them again for another few yards, and then they take off. Same happens to Till. She likes to chase seagulls in the sea, and the seagulls look at her, and then they take off. No, we would never let them get to a bird. Bella once caught a squirrel. I don't know who was more surprised, her, the squirrel, or us. And she dropped it straight away. And one thing we're always looking for here is the deer. Now the deer here, there's always deer around. If we can see them, then they go straight on the lead. Neither of them ever chased a deer, and they wouldn't win if they did. And if we're ever anywhere near livestock, if we see even a sign for livestock, they both go on the lead. We never take a chance that either our dogs would chase a sheep or worry them. So even though if we can't see the sheep, they go on the lead. If we can see sheep, if they're a long way away, when we were up in Harris 18 months ago and walking along a path that had sheep in the field, but they were half a mile away. And that's also why it's important to get the recall very good. At the moment, even if they were half a mile away, I'd keep Isla on the lead because she can run off. So she's getting to the point now we can trust her, but we won't do that until we know we can trust her, and we keep working on the recall. It's 1,000% better than it was a couple of months ago, but we come back down to that always and never thing. So now if we see another dog, always goes in the lead, get her to sit, give her some treats, and then we let her play. Not always helped by other dog owners. In fact, I don't want to moan about cyclists, but if we see cyclists, we always stop, put them on the lead, keep them under control. And all I want you cyclists to do is just ride past quickly. Don't dawdle. The amount of people just dawdle, and we're just standing there waiting. I want to show you consideration, but be nice sometimes. And I got to say, it's rare we get the consideration from the cyclists. Be nice to show some consideration back. I don't want my dogs chasing you and to spoil your ride. But equally, I don't want you spoiling my walk. So we will always be considerate, regardless of how good or how considerate you are or aren't. It would be nice if we just went by a little bit quicker. Not ask you to do Tour de France speed. As you can see, we're waiting for you. Don't make us wait. And secondly, be really nice if you just said thank you. You know, it doesn't cost you anything, but recognise that we stopped for you, dogs under control for you, and just saying thank you. It won't ever stop me. The fact most cyclists don't ever say thank you. I mean, on the road, if I can try to be considerate of cyclists on road, and most of them are, say thank you afterwards, but we do get a few who don't. I was riding behind two cyclists on Saturday who were riding side by side and blocking the road. And I appreciate they want to keep themselves safe. But I've seen quite a few times that drivers get frustrated, and I sometimes think it causes more danger, but I'm not a cyclist, and this is not a moaning about cyclists, but we somehow got to live and rub together. And be nice sometimes if, especially when they're riding in big groups and are blocking the roads, a little bit of consideration. And I know it's difficult. I've been riding motorcycles for 40 years, and I have one rule for riding a motorbike. It doesn't matter who is right or who is wrong. I'm the one that gets hurt. So my first duty is to protect myself. And I sometimes think there's a few cyclists need to live by that rule themselves. Being in the right is unhelpful if you're stuck in an ambulance or worse, stuck in a hearse. But back to the doggies, and that's the thing that we do, is that we see anybody, we put Isla under control. Often we put Tilly under control, though she's different. She doesn't bother people. And before they say hello, we want to make sure that those who are meeting us are happy for us, for an Isla to say hello or play with their dog. We're making good progress with that. They're down that dip, but there they are. And if you do have a collie more than any other dog, I think you need eyes in the back of your head to see where they go to. And they're both such lovely doggies. That's the thing as well, you see, Isla's a proper dog. She's a proper dog. Whereas Tilly is a bit of what you might call a designer dog. But to me, they're both doggies. And while we have to be quite strict with Isla, it doesn't stop me loving her and giving her lots of love. And while my wife is allergic to her, doesn't stop her hugging her and giving her lots of love. Because if we can't love them, then we shouldn't have them. And I don't want to be without her. Because I feel, oh, what we got there? That looks like a kite. It could be a buzzard. I think it's a buzzard. Probably won't come out in the film. I do like birds of prey, and up here we get, I have seen golden eagles, but I've never seen one in the sky, and I haven't seen one since I lived here. I saw one on holiday a couple of years ago, when we first came up to look at cottages, and I saw one at the side of the road, and it flew off in front of the car. Unmistakable, a bird of that size and colouring what it was. My wife's seen a few when I've been driving. See a lot of buzzards, and actually now see buzzards more at the side of the road, and we get quite a few red kites as well. Harris hawks, although I can't really in the sky tell the difference between a Harris hawk and a buzzard, so I tend to label everything as a buzzard. I think the Harris hawks are slightly smaller. And when we lived down in the Great Glen at our cottage, we had Harris hawks there, and I could make an educated guess that was it a Harris hawk or a buzzard, and I tend to do that on size. So how much this is going to make the edit, I don't know, because I'm trying different camera angles. This is my first walk with a selfie stick. Now Isla is somewhere down there. There she is. Isla! Iley Piley! Hello, sweet pie. Oh, what a good girl you are. Come on. Oh, you're so beautiful. What a beautiful girl you are. Here's one for you. Here's one for you. Now, over Christmas, she'd have been gone. I'd have been shouting here for 20 minutes trying to get her back. She's not just beautiful to look at, she's got a beautiful nature. Very playful. And sometimes being an old grouch, I don't want her to be playful. She likes to stand on me. And she's quite heavy now, she's about 14 kilos. She licks my head. But also, I've never had any other dog do this. At night time, because she sleeps, we don't really like her sleeping on the bed, but when you're asleep, she hops on because she sleeps in the same room as us. But she lays her head on my head, using me like a little pillow. And it's so sweet, and it's not uncomfortable. And sometimes at night she just comes for a little stroke. She sticks her nose into my nose, and I give her a little stroke behind the ears, and she just goes back to bed. Sometimes I think that while collies are very intelligent, I've got the one that's not so intelligent. Ah, there you are. Just talking negative things about you, sweetie pie. Come on, let's go. So as you're hearing, I call her sweetie pie a lot. Sweet pie, because she is a sweet pie. It's a privilege living here. And all the videos I make are around about vehicles, which I'm still due to do one about. My BMW, my car, my FEV 530e, which I'm beginning to appreciate now as a great car. Didn't get it in the best of circumstances. When I got my i4, I went through the full ordering process online and picked it all out, picked everything out and designed the car for me and what I wanted. Rightly or wrongly, I was so desperate to get rid of it at Christmas. I wanted to go for either a petrol or a FEV, so I went for the FEV because that was what was available. It was either a 5 Series FEV or a 5 Series diesel. The 5 Series diesel was 10 grand more, so I went for the FEV. I didn't like the colour, thought the interior was too dark, but I was in a very, very negative frame of mind overall. And BMW, Harry Fairburn, they were so helpful, and yes, they made money out of it. They're a car dealership, not a charity. I don't resent that. It was all my decision making, good or bad. But I've done 3 long trips now. I've been to Perth and back once. Isla! Isla! Yes, that's you. See, she stopped. Tilly! Till! See, she's going for a swim. I don't want her to go for a swim today because of the ice. Tilly! Don't go in the water today, sweet pie. Call her both sweet pie. Too much ice, so don't want you slipping in. Come on, this way. Good girl. Good girl. Coming near the end, another 100 yards to go. And I'll stop filming before we get to the steep hill going down. But the BMW car, I've done 2 trips to England, 1 trip to Perth. And it's been brilliant. It has less tech than the i4, but to my old brain, actually that's not such a bad thing. More buttons that, because I've had a few BMWs, they're more intuitive. And then lots of good tech around entertainment, phones. So the right level of tech, I think. Also, being a 5 Series Touring, one of the problems we had with the i4, and problem is the wrong word, but as a smaller car, we'd gone from the Mercedes-Benz GLC, which was brilliant as a general vehicle for moving stuff around and going to the dump, and the i4 being this Grand Coupe hatchback had a much smaller boot space than I'd appreciated. When I got it, I'd measured it and thought, oh, it's fine, but the sloping roof and the way the partial shaft worked, and you can take the partial shaft out, but it didn't have a lot of carrying capacity. Surprisingly little, I found. It was okay for trips, but no good for going to the dump. Now the 5 Series Touring, being the size of a bus, you know, it is huge. But put those seats down. But I mean, here's one of the really irritating things about it. When you put the seats down, and I put the seats down for a variety of reasons, You have this warning triangle on the dash, this amber light warning you, the seat's down. I know, I'm going to dump. I've never had a car before that's given me a warning that the back seat's down. I'm not sure what the warning's for. How that makes the car more dangerous. Maybe one of you can enlighten me. And as soon as, I've never always had the same practice. As soon as I've emptied the car, I put the seats back. It's got a very clever partial shelf system, which I've now completely disabled because we do have a lot of times we put the seats down. But for that, it's a much more versatile car. Much more versatile. But I'm going to do a full review on it to let everyone know how I'm getting on. But it is all positive. And really, as I come to the end of this walk, life is very good.